Godfather's Pizza. It was owned, somebody's had some good pizza. It was owned by the Pillsbury Company at the time. And before I became the CEO of Godfathers, I was a vice president with the Burger King subsidiary owned by Pillsbury. And because I was able to take the worst performing region in Pillsbury, Burger King, and turn it into the best performing region, they pulled me out of the Burger King subsidiary and appointed me CEO of Godfather's Pizza because Godfather's Pizza was going bankrupt. Pillsbury had already declared it a failure. They were getting prepared to write it off on their books. But since they owned it, they knew that they had to find an executive to run it. So they said, Herman's not doing anything. He's got his region running just great. Let's pull him out of there and send him on Omaha, Nebraska. So on April 1st, 1986, April Fool's Day, I show up and make an announcement to the corporate staff. My name is Herman Cain. I'm your new CEO, and this is not an April Fool's Day joke. When I took over Godfather's Pizza, it was supposed to fail. Here's what I found. It had no leadership. Godfathers had had 5 presidents in 3 years. That's what you call no leadership. And the reason that the presidents kept changing is because the owners of the company prior to Pillsbury couldn't decide who they wanted to run the company. And then when Pillsbury bought the company, they couldn't decide either until they finally made me the CEO. No leadership. Secondly, if there's no leadership, there's no strategy for success. How could the organization know where it is going and how it is going to get there, which is the job of the leader, if the leader hadn't been in place long enough to develop a strategy that he could then share and have the entire organization embrace it? Strategies succeed when the entire organization embraces the strategy as well as the goal and the mission. So it had no leadership. It had no strategy. And as a result, it had no direction. And then thirdly, it had no focus. It had no focus. Godfathers were trying to do too many things too fast with too little and wasn't getting anything done. And then fourthly, the morale of the organization was in the toilet. The morale of the organization was in the toilet. So what did we do? Well, as the leader, the first thing I did was listen to the people. Listen to the people working in the restaurants. I listened to crew members. I listened to restaurant managers. I listened to people that were operating executives in the field. I listened to people that were in corporate office. I listened to franchisees. I listened to suppliers. The first thing that a leader does, if you want to fix stuff, is listen. And that's what I did. 30 days later, we had figured out the strategy. And as a result, it wasn't Herman's strategy, it was the strategy of everybody, because everybody participated, and it was my job to distill all this input down into what we ought to be doing in terms of being able to save the company. And the bottom line of our strategy was focus, 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 because we were trying to do too much stuff too fast with too little. And then once you develop a strategy, then you go out and communicate it to the organization, and they embrace it. As an example, when I got to Godfather's Pizza, they not only had the original Godfather's Pizza crust, which was a Chicago-style crust, thick crust, with a hearty sauce, and Godfather's distinguished its product from its competitors by putting a lot of topping on it. Our large combo pizza, we had a jumbo Godfather's fully loaded. That sucker weighed about 5 pounds. And the other distinguishing factor about a was that we put nothing but the best ingredients on there. You've had pizzas where you can tell that they got cheap pepperoni because you got grease running all over it. But we distinguish ourselves by putting the best ingredients on it. But when I got there, because they didn't have leadership, they didn't have strategy, and didn't have focus, they also had the original Godfather's Pizza formulation. They had one that looked just like Pizza Hut. They had another one that looked like Domino's, and they had another one that looked like Little Caesars. And so I asked the question of my executives, the guy who was executive vice president of operations, I said, why do we have all of these different versions on the menu? He said, well, because business was so bad and we were being beat up by competition, we thought that if somebody accidentally came into Godfather's and thought they were at a competitor, we'd have one. I redirected his career immediately. And so I made my first executive decision. We will eliminate all of these other pizza crusts and formulations, and we are going to focus on what we do best, which is Godfather's pizza formulation. Guess what happened? We were able to execute more consistently. People were happy that we simplified the day-to-day operations. Sales started to go up. Customers started to come back. 18 months later, Godfather's was making money again, much to the surprise of Pillsbury. We were able to turn Godfather's around for one big overriding reason. I didn't get the memo that we were supposed to fail, nor did my people. We didn't know we were supposed to fail, and we didn't. Fast forward 24 years. The United States of America. The United States of America is technically bankrupt. We just don't have a court to file the papers with. We are technically bankrupt. Secondly, we have no leadership. We have somebody in the position, which I call positionship. A lot of organizations suffer from positionship. Think about it. You probably know of some. Somebody's in the position, but there's no leadership. Because leaders do the three things that leaders do, as I talk about. They work on the right problem. They ask the right questions. And they remove barriers which prevent success. They work on the right problem. They ask the right questions. And they remove barriers which prevent success. So this nation, we do not have anyone in that position that's leading the nation